Close your eyes and think of America. What do you see? You see the shimmering glass towers of Manhattan, the sun-drenched palms of Beverly Hills, or perhaps the historic monuments of Washington, D.C., standing as stone-cold guardians of liberty and justice. We are taught that this is the land of the American dream, a place where the horizon is limitless, and success is a simple matter of hard work. But there is another America, an America that exists in the shadows of those very skyscrapers, an America that the tourism boards won't show you, and that the mainstream media often simplifies into a 30-second soundbite of pity or fear. Welcome to Kensington, Philadelphia. To the casual observer, Kensington Avenue looks like a scene from a post-apocalyptic fever dream. It is a place where the social contract hasn't just been bent, it has been shredded. Here, the air carries a heavy, metallic scent, a mixture of exhaust, industrial decay, and the undeniable smell of human suffering. In the early morning mist of 2026, the streets are populated by silhouettes, people hunched over, frozen in what locals call the Tranq, a gravity-defying state of unconsciousness, brought on by a new wave of synthetic additives that are eating the flesh of the city, from the inside out. But before we look at the what, we must ask why. Why has a neighborhood that was once the beating heart of American industry become the epicenter of a humanitarian crisis that rivals the worst war zones on the planet? I am standing on the corner of Kensington and Allegheny, intersection known to the world simply as K and A to the police. It is a nightmare. To the city's politicians, it is a liability. But to the thousands of people living in these nylon tents, on these concrete sidewalks, it is home. And it is a home that is burning. In the next hour, we are going to strip away the statistics. We are going to look past the needles and the trash, because behind every pair of bloodshot eyes in this neighborhood is a story of a son who lost his way, a mother who couldn't fight the demons of trauma, a veteran who fought for his country only to find that his country had no place for him when he returned with scars that wouldn't heal. We are entering a world where survival is measured in minutes, not years, where the next hit isn't about getting high, it's about stopping the pain of existing. This is not just a story about drugs or homelessness. This is a story about the fragile nature of our civilization. It is a mirror held up to the face of modern society, asking us, how much are we willing to ignore before we lose our own humanity? Listen to that sound. That is the sound of the city moving on. Thousands of people pass over this neighborhood every single day on that train. They look down for a fleeting second, see the chaos below, and then they look back at their phones. They are physically above it, but socially they are miles away. In this documentary, we refuse to look away. We are going to explore the dark corners of the crisis. We will talk to the people who live here, the people who try to save them, and the residents who are trapped in a neighborhood that feels like it's under siege. We will investigate the Tranq epidemic, the emergence of Xylazine, and how it has changed the landscape of the streets, making the crisis more visible and more violent than ever before. But more importantly, we are going to ask the hardest question of all: is Kensington a fluke, or is it a preview? Is this the inevitable destination for every city that fails to protect its most vulnerable? This is the death of the American dream. This is Kensington, 2026, and this is the truth. Part 2, the anatomy of a crisis. Why Kensington? To understand the Kensington of today, we have to look at the ghosts of its past. You see, this neighborhood wasn't always a cautionary tale. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Kensington was the workshop of the world. It was a powerhouse of American manufacturing. Thousands of people flocked here to work in the massive textile mills and hat factories. The air was filled with the sound of progress, and the streets were lined with neatly kept brick row homes where families built their lives. But then, the world changed. The factories closed their doors, moving overseas in search of cheaper labor. The steady paychecks vanished, and in their place, a vacuum was created. And as any physicist or sociologist will tell you, nature abhors a vacuum. When the industry left, the infrastructure remained, but the soul of the neighborhood was hollowed out. Poverty moved in, and close behind it came the shadow of the illicit market. Kensington's unique geography, its proximity to major highways and the elevated train line, made it an accidental, yet perfect, distribution hub. However, what we are witnessing in 2026 isn't just a leftover of 20th century deindustrialization. We are looking at a modern-day perfect storm. First, let's talk about the economic pressure cooker. Over the last few years, the cost of living across the United States has reached a breaking point. In cities like Philadelphia, rent has outpaced wages by a staggering margin. When you live paycheck to paycheck, you are only one medical bill, one car breakdown, or one bad day away from the sidewalk. For many people standing on these corners today, the journey to homelessness didn't start with a choice, it started with an eviction notice. But the economic collapse is only half the story. The other half is chemical. For decades, the crisis was defined by opioids like heroin. Then came fentanyl, a synthetic opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, which turned a bad habit into a death sentence. But now, in 2026, the streets of Kensington have evolved into something even more terrifying: the era of Tranq. Xylazine, a powerful animal tranquilizer not intended for human use, is being cut into the drug supply. It doesn't just increase the high, it shuts down the body's basic functions. It causes horrific skin ulcers and wounds that refuse to heal, leading to amputations. Because xylazine is not an opioid, the life-saving drug Narcan, which has saved thousands from fentanyl overdoses, is often ineffective against its sedative effects. This is the anatomy of a crisis. It is a triangulation of failed industrial policy, a predatory housing market, and a drug supply that has become increasingly lethal. Politicians often talk about Kensington as if it were a localized infection, something that can be contained within a few city blocks. But they are wrong. Kensington is a symptom of a systemic failure. It is what happens when a society stops investing in people and starts treating human beings as disposable. When you walk down Somerset Street, you see the physical manifestation of this neglect. You see trash-strewn lots that haven't been cleaned in years. You see streetlights that have been dark for months. You see a lack of basic sanitation that would be considered a national emergency in any other part of the country. Why is this allowed to persist? Is it because the problem is too big to solve? Or is it because, deep down, the powers that be have decided that these lives aren't worth the investment? We often hear the argument that these people chose this life. But as we spend time here, talking to those who have lost everything, that narrative begins to crumble. Choice is a luxury of the stable. When you are caught in the grip of a chemical dependence, that rewires your brain's survival instinct, and you have no roof over your head and no food in your stomach. Choice becomes a very different concept. In this chapter, we have looked at the why. We have looked at the history and the science. But science and history are cold. They don't feel the bite of the winter wind. They don't feel the hunger. To truly understand the heart of this tragedy, we have to move past the why and look at the who. We have to meet the people who are living through this nightmare every single day. Part 3, Voices from the Sidewalk, the Human Cost. Statistics have a way of numbing us. When we hear that there are thousands of people living on the streets of Philadelphia, the mind struggles to comprehend the scale. It becomes a blur of numbers and charts. But when you sit down on a milk crate, level with the eyes of someone who hasn't slept in a real bed for 3 years, the blur disappears. You are left with a human being. Meet Mark. Mark is 54 years old. In the dim light of a Tuesday afternoon, he sits outside a boarded-up storefront, his hands tucked deep into the pockets of a stained camouflage jacket. If you saw him in a different context, perhaps at a backyard barbecue or a local hardware store, you would think he was just another grandfather, another neighbor. But Mark has lived on this specific block of Kensington for 18 months. I used to build things, Mark tells us, his voice a gravelly whisper. He was a master carpenter. He spent decades building the very homes that people in the suburbs now cherish. He points to his hands, calloused, scarred, and trembling slightly. These hands built a life. I had a wife. I had a daughter who played the flute. I had a mortgage and a dog named Blue. So, how did he end up here? For Mark, it wasn't a sudden fall. It was a slow, agonizing erosion. A workplace injury led to a prescription for heavy painkillers. When the prescription ran out, the pain didn't. When the pills became too expensive, the street offered a cheaper alternative. Then came the divorce, then the job loss. Finally, the silence from his family. The hardest part isn't the cold, Mark says, looking at a SEPTA train passing overhead. It's the way people look through you, or rather, the way they look past you. It's like I've become a ghost while I'm still breathing. People are more afraid of me than they are for me. Mark's story is a mirror for thousands of others. He is a casualty of a system that treats addiction as a moral failing, rather than a medical emergency. But the tragedy of Kensington doesn't just stay in Kensington. It radiates outward, tearing at the hearts of families hundreds of miles away. A few blocks away, near the local library, we meet Sarah. Sarah doesn't live in a tent. She arrived here 2 days ago on a Greyhound bus from Ohio. She is clutching a wrinkled photograph of a young girl with bright blue eyes and a graduation cap. "This is my daughter, Lily," Sarah says, her voice trembling. She's 22. The last time I talked to her, she told me she was in Philadelphia. She told me she was okay, but I haven't heard from her in 3 weeks. Sarah spent the last 48 hours walking these streets, showing Lily's picture to anyone who would look. She has seen things in the last 2 days that will haunt her forever, things no mother should ever have to see. She has searched the hospitals, the shelters, and yes, even the morgue. People ask me why I'm here, why I don't just go home, Sarah cries. How can I go home when my heart is somewhere on this pavement? This neighborhood is a black hole. It swallows children and never spits them back out. Sarah and Mark represent the two sides of the Kensington coin, the ones trapped inside the cycle, and the ones desperately trying to pull them out from the outside. As we walk further down the avenue, we encounter a different kind of survival. We meet James. James is known by some as the mayor of the tents. He is a veteran of the streets, a man who has managed to maintain a sense of order in a world of chaos. James spends his days organizing trash pickups among the homeless camps and sharing what little food he has with the newcomers. "There's a code out here," James explains. "You have to have a code or the street will eat you alive." We look out for each other because no one else is looking out for us. The police come and move us along. The city comes and sweeps our belongings into a garbage truck. But at the end of the day, we're all we've got. James is a philosopher of the pavement. He speaks about the Tranq epidemic with a terrifying clarity. "It's changing people," he says. "Fentanyl was bad, but this stuff, it's different. It takes their spirit. You see people with holes in their legs the size of quarters, and they can't even feel it. It's like they're being erased, 1 inch at a time." Watching James interact with his peers, you realize that Kensington is not just a place of despair. It is a complex social ecosystem. There's a hierarchy, there's a community, and there is, believe it or not, love. But it is a love born in a war zone. These voices, Mark, Sarah, James, are the real face of the crisis. They are not the homeless. They are individuals with names, memories, and souls. When we stop seeing them as a problem to be solved and start seeing them as people to be saved, only then can the conversation truly begin. But as the sun begins to set over the Kensington Towers, a darker question looms. If these are the victims, who are the villains? And why, in the wealthiest nation on earth, does this feel like a battle that has already been lost? Part 4, The Failed Solutions, a Circle of Futility. If you walk through Kensington for a day, you will see a strange, repetitive dance. It's called the sweep. Every few weeks, city sanitation crews, flanked by police officers, arrive with bulldozers and garbage trucks. They give the people living in tents a few minutes to gather what they can carry. Before everything else, blankets, photos of loved ones, life-saving medicines is crushed and thrown away. The sidewalk is power washed. For hours, the street looks clean. But by sunset, the tents are back, often on the very same spot. This is the cycle of futility that defines the American response to homelessness in 2026. We spend millions of dollars on these cleanups, moving humans suffering from one block to the next, hoping that if we make life miserable enough, the problem will simply vanish. But you cannot sweep away a chemical dependency. You cannot clean away a lack of affordable housing. There's a fierce debate raging in the halls of power. On one side, there are those who call for tough love, mandatory treatment, increased arrests. and a zero-tolerance policy for open-air drug markets. They argue that the current harm reduction model, which provides clean needles and supervised sites, has only enabled the crisis to grow. They point to the streets of Kensington as proof that compassion, without enforcement, is just slow-motion suicide. On the other side, advocates argue that you cannot wrest your way out of a public health emergency. They point to the staggering lack of treatment beds. In Philadelphia, a person seeking help for addiction often faces a waiting list weeks long. For someone in the throes of a fentanyl or Tranq withdrawal, a week is an eternity. By the time a bed opens up, they are often already dead or back in the cycle. There is the homeless industrial complex. This is a term used by critics to describe the massive network of nonprofits and government agencies that receive billions in funding, but seem to produce very few results. In California, in New York, and here in Pennsylvania, the budget for homelessness grows every year, yet the number of tents on the street only increases. Where is the money going? Much of it is swallowed by administrative costs, consultants, and temporary fixes that never address the root cause. The fact that the bottom rung of the American ladder has been cut off. As we talk to the residents who actually live in the houses of Kensington, the families who have to walk their children to school past people overdosing on their doorsteps, their frustration is palpable. They feel abandoned. They pay their taxes. They sweep their own porches, but they live in what feels like an ungoverned territory. We want to be compassionate, one resident told us, but we also want to be safe. Why does the city protect the right to use drugs on the sidewalk, but doesn't protect our children's right to play in the park? This is the tragic irony of Kensington. It is a place where everyone is a victim: the people in the tents, the families in the houses, and the police officers who feel like they are trying to put out a forest fire with a water pistol. It is a system designed to fail, and in 2026, it is failing spectacularly. Part 5, the final reflection, a mirror to the nation. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long, distorted shadows across Kensington Avenue, the blue light of the city's surveillance cameras begins to flicker on. It is a haunting sight. A city that can track your every move with high-tech sensors, but cannot find a way to give a veteran a roof over his head. We started this journey asking if Kensington was a fluke. After weeks on these streets, the answer is clear. Kensington is not an accident. It is a choice. It is the choice to prioritize profit over people. It is the choice to ignore the crumbling mental health infrastructure. It is the choice to look away because the reality is too uncomfortable to face. But here is the truth that we must all confront. The line between us and them is much thinner than we like to admit. Most Americans are just one major crisis away from the edge. A medical emergency, a job loss, a divorce, the same things that happened to Mark, to Sarah's daughter, to James. Kensington is not just a neighborhood in Philadelphia. It is a warning. It is a mirror held up to the soul of the 21st century. It shows us what happens when we lose our sense of community. It shows us what happens when we value the market more than the human life. As we leave this place, the images stay with us. The vacant stares, the trembling hands, but also the small acts of kindness: a shared cigarette, a hand on a shoulder, a mother's refusal to give up hope. The American dream isn't dead yet, but it is on life support in places like this. If we want to save it, we have to start by looking, truly looking, not with judgment, but with the realization that every person we saw today was once a child with a dream. Every person here belongs to someone. What will it take for us to change? How many more Kensingtons must emerge across this nation before we decide that enough is enough? The answer isn't in a government building or a boardroom. It's in our willingness to see the humanity in the unseen. Thank you for watching this journey with Homeless US. This is a conversation that shouldn't end when this video does. Look around your own city. Look at the people you usually pass by and ask yourself, what can we do to make sure the dream doesn't end here? If this story moved you, please share it, not for the views, but for the people whose voices were heard today. Leave a comment below, tell us what you're seeing in your part of the world. Let's keep this light shining in the dark corner.